Hello, 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 hello. Let me know if you can hear me, would you? I'm going to check this on my phone and make sure it's live like it says it is. But Facebook's been messing with me today, so I don't know. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I see one person on there. Can just tell me, type yes if you can hear me, would you, please? It doesn't show that I'm live when I'm looking at my page on my phone. And it's supposed to be on YouTube and Twitter. So I'm giving this a test because there's some things that are on my mind that I'd like to share with you, and things that I'm hearing from you that I'd like to share with other people. I've been talking to and chatting with people, via Messenger and text and on the phone. Okay, so I see. Great. So I see the Twitter is working. Fantastic. I'm going to let this build a little bit on Facebook. My name is Matt Dubiel. If you see this on a profile, you probably see my name on there, and I am circulating petitions to run against Tammy Duckworth for United States Senate to represent you and me, the people of Illinois. And we really need some help gathering petitions. We're finding there's a lot of parents and a lot of voters and a lot of Illinoisans, a lot of Americans that agree that there's some things that we really need to work on together, and we need better representation. However, we need to mobilize those people and organize those people and get some signatures on pieces of paper in order to get on the ballot. And that's how we do things in the United States of America. That's how this Constitution was set up. That's how the system was built. So while Facebook works on gathering an audience a little bit, I just want to check and make sure that it's working. And if you're seeing this on Facebook, I believe if you leave a comment, it'll show it to me. I'm using some software that allows me to broadcast all three. Okay, I see Facebook is live. Great. Sean Sieber says, Big Sean says, such a soothing voice. Thank you, sir. I am running for United States Senate, but really, I don't get to run unless we get the certain amount of signatures. And my family and I are efforting to do that. We need some help. If you're willing to help do that, every single person that sees this or shares this or comments on this or likes this or knows somebody, every single person could get one petition with 10 signatures on it. And if we had people doing that, we would have zero problems, and it would be the next conversation would be, now what are we going to do once we get on the ballot? So if you can do that and you're willing to do that, the place to get the petition is at mattdubiel.com. And you can comment below this, and I'll post the link in there, or maybe somebody else can post the link in there for me, mattdubiel.com. So specifically this video right now, I did one earlier, and Facebook blocked me. And they suppressed the video, and they kept it from going live, and they kept it from me from being able to tag my friends and people that I know that might agree with some of the things I'm saying. And I don't need you to agree with everything I'm saying. Not everyone is going to agree with everything that I'm saying, but I'm going to let you know who I am, because I think too many times, so many times, these people run for office and they show us who they want us to think they are instead of just demonstrating who they are. So my mission here is just to demonstrate who I am in all of my imperfections and flaws. And there are many. But within all of those flaws and imperfections are some core beliefs and some core standards that I have. And I don't give up on those. So the other night, I'm at home and I'm watching television. Everyone in the house is asleep. And I just want to share this perspective with you, because this will help you and anybody else that sees this understand why in the world a guy who's 45 and has 4 kids and lives in the suburbs and has his own business to run and all the things that go with life today. Why would somebody then want to foist themselves into the public arena to be scrutinized and made fun of and maybe called names, to hold a public office where, boy, you're really swimming upstream these days? And it's because I believe that if we don't do that, we're all in deep trouble, and our country is in deep trouble. And it's not hyperbole. It's not, theater. This isn't some sycophantic pursuit to be known. Believe it or not, even though I'm in radio, I'm behind the scenes, and I'm behind the scenes because I'm kind of an introvert. In fact, I'm not kind of an introvert, I'm a total introvert. So COVID for me, staying home, was no problem because I work from home all the time and I'm by myself all the time. In fact, that's one of the reasons why it's easier to just, like, you sit in a room with a microphone and you don't have to go out. I love people, but I get nervous in front of big groups of people, and I especially get nervous about things that I'm very passionate about and I care a lot about. So along those lines, I want to share something that kind of popped out at me. And I'm sitting home, and I'm gonna this post that I shared a while ago was in type, and I'm just gonna read it to you because I'm gonna try and bring it to life a little bit with spoken word. In addition to that, by the way, if anybody sees this and you could heart it or share it or thumbs up or any of that stuff on whatever platform you're on, or leave a comment, that will boost it so that maybe more people can see it. It's not for me, it's so that more people can see it. So if you could do that, if you're willing to help us with our petitions, you could go to mattdubiel.com, and I'd be grateful. And oops, I didn't mean to do that. That's StreamYard that I'm using to try and, I guess if there's comments that are cool or interesting or that I agree with, I can put them on there, but I can also put ones that I don't agree with, and I'd be happy to do that because again, I want to show you who I am in all that it is. So we could use your help if you're willing to help. If you're in Illinois, if you know registered voters, 102 counties in Illinois, and they all matter. Every person in those counties deserves to be represented, and we all know that's not happening. Earlier, I posted about Tammy Duckworth. She's the current state senator, U.S. senator from the state of Illinois, and she has been posting about how it's going to be her mission to make sure that abortion is a priority in our country. I think it's disgusting. I think it's wrong. I did a whole video about it earlier. That is something you may want to watch because you may disagree with me. So, point of this video is I believe that Fauci should be investigated, among other people. And I want to make the case for that general perspective, as well as the perspective that our country is in deep trouble right now. And we are on the verge of a new world, or the kind of country and world that was designed in our Constitution, and we have to protect it. So I'm flipping the channels a couple weeks ago, and I'm watching television, and Footloose comes on. And it occurred to me as I'm watching this movie, we're living in Footloose, and not in a good way. But the good news is the ants outnumber the grasshoppers. And I know I'm mixing movie metaphors, but hang with me on that, because A Bug's Life and Footloose and Monsters, Inc. all have something in common. I'm going to explain. Footloose is on Showtime as I'm typing this. And I'm watching it, and it's like watching a documentary on life in Naperville or anywhere USA in 2021 and 2020 and in parts of 2022. It's wild how parallel the fanaticism is in Footloose to the fanaticism we're experiencing today for masking over the last year or two. This movie is all about kids who want to dance and have fun, but the town won't let them dance. And the whole town is obsessed with keeping them safe. The whole town. Sound familiar? Everything that's done in this town, in this movie, it's worth renting. Find it on Netflix or something and watch it with the family, because, you know, it's one of these 80s movies for us Gen Xers and some of the boomers and stuff. It's one of those movies where it codified our perspective of American life somewhat. So in the movie, you can't dance to keep you safe, The whole town is fanatical about it. And here we are today. And, this movie was a romantic comedy of sorts, okay, when it came out. But as I watch Footloose now, it seems like we're watching an episode of The Twilight Zone in real time in the world we're living in. Our kids want to breathe freely and stop the charade of the COVID chin strap. You've seen it. You've seen it on the basketball courts. They're wearing the chin strap. They're wearing it under their nose. It has no point if you're doing that. It probably has no point even if you're wearing it the right way. And it's all under the guise of, we're keeping you safe. So we know what you think you're keeping them safe from. It's a virus. And it's a virus that has a 99.9% survival rate. Whether you do something or don't do anything. Follow the math, follow the science. Whether you do something or you do nothing, it's got a 99.9% survival rating. That's math. That's science. That can't be disputed. It isn't being disputed. It can be verified pretty much anywhere. Don't take my word for it. But let me ask you, what are you keeping them safe for exactly? So if you won't allow people to dance in Footloose because you're afraid to keep them safe, and you won't allow people to breathe freely or traverse the country or the globe freely without showing your papers and without making sure that you have to take a test or do whatever, what exactly are you keeping them safe for? Because the whole point of living is to live. L-I-V-I-N, live in, like Matthew McConaughey says. So if the world that keeps you safe of a virus that 99.9% survived robs you of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it hinders their breathing, makes them dizzy, gives them bacterial infection, retards their speech and early development, inhibits their social interaction, confuses their communication, delays their advancement in education, makes them anxious, depressed, or suicidal, then they're not being kept safe, but they're being kept sick. They're not being kept safe, they've been kept sick. This is sick. There's a 99.9% or better survival rate when you do something or you do nothing. Those beautiful kids of ours are learning real-life civics when they should be and should have been taught civics in the very places they're fighting to stay free. So you have the high schools and the middle schools teaching that dictatorship is okay because they're following a dictatorship, a mandate, instead of using it as an opportunity to teach civics. These beautiful kids of ours are learning real-life civics and how not to follow it. They're learning statistics in the real world now, but they should have been taught how to spot the folly of percentages, cases, available beds, positive tests, and how marketers use numbers to sell things, ideas, and fear. That's what we should be teaching our kids right now. That's what we should be teaching our adults right now. If I have one apple and then I get 4 more apples, that's a 400% increase. But it's just 4 more apples. The numbers manipulate things. And there's a book, I have it here someplace, that Bill Gates has on his stack of books, and it's How to Lie with Statistics. Every kid should be reading that book. Every parent should be reading that book because the statistics have manipulated our lives, our freedoms, and our livelihoods. Even today in his presser, the Illinois governor and his medical experts refused to deliver statistical benchmarks that would serve as goals to reach in order to remove the unlawful mandates. Now remember this, I wrote this like a couple weeks ago. It's really hard to measure with COVID variants, he said, and Dr. Inozzi said. Really? It's hard to measure science stuff? How about deaths? Most of us forgot those scary terror alerts on TV in 9/11. A friend of mine reminded me of this. Those of you who are old enough to remember the war on terror, they manipulated the perspective of the community and the populace by hitting news channels with these terror alerts. Red, I think, was extra scary. Orange was pretty bad. And Fox News and MSNBC and CNN and all these channels would hit these terror alerts, and they would get us right to the brink, and then they would bring them down. And then they'd get us right to the brink again, and then they would bring it down. And then there would be an election. They would go up precipitously around election time and then back down curiously afterward. courtesy of CNN, MSNBC, and yes, also Fox News. If you're just joining me, I'm sharing a post about why now is important for America, why our country is changing forever if we allow it to, and how that's not going to be good for any of us unless you want to live in Footloose, the movie, where they weren't allowed to dance to keep them safe. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's the ridiculousness that we've been living in. For a virus that has a 99.9% survival rating, whether you did something or whether you did nothing. Keep that in mind, because the argument is, well, it was, people are dying. Whether you did something or you did nothing, 99.9% would survive. The media, with these terror alerts in the early 2000s, played on our fear to drive ratings and then sell the ratings to their biggest client across the board. The one keeping them all in business. Not MyPillow, Big Pharma. You know, there's a joke among conservative Americans right now that there's no white people in like TV commercials, because you'll look and you'll see they've diversified the casting in all the TV commercials to make it multi-culti so that everyone feels represented. But if you notice, there is a category of commercials that there are a lot of white people in, and those are predominantly pharmaceutical commercials, because there's a lot of white people in the United States of America, and there's a lot of white people on drugs, and those people buy drugs, and those companies sell drugs, and they want to get you worked up, and they want to sell you a bunch of drugs. That is the industry that is keeping, almost single-handedly, keeping cable news alive. That's Fox, that's CNN, that's NBC, that's CNBC, that's all of them. Interesting how the fear is like energy that powers the sick machine. And now they're after our kids, and they want to instill fear in our kids and use it as a power, like the scare floor in Monsters, Inc. But our kids are fighting to stay in school. They just want to breathe and smile and be normal and stay in school. Now, I know a lot of kids are going to school mask-free now, and everything feels like it's great. But this was done to them for a period of time in the United States of America. Our schools became re-education camps. Our schools became internment camps of sort. And you think that's melodramatic, you people that don't necessarily agree with the kind of ideas that I agree with, but it's not. Because if we went back in time to the Japanese internment camps in the United States of America, and you found out that they had to wear masks and they had to get certain kinds of shots that were experimental, you would be out of your minds livid. But we're trying to do that to our population right now. We're trying to do that to our kids right now. We're trying to do it. It's insane to do it to anybody, but it's really insane to be trying to do it to children under 5 and pregnant mothers and anybody. It's an experiment. Our kids just want to go to school. They're asking to go to school. Other kids, it used to be like, oh, I don't want my kid to do drugs. Oh, I don't want my kid to, join a gang. Our kids are asking to go to school. How great is that? There's an upside to all of this hidden in the nastiness. God bless our kids for wanting to go to school. They could be doing fentanyl, heroin, meth, oxy, pills, and or getting pregnant. They want to go to school. But they're standing up and they're learning what America is all about, and they are 100% right. These kids are coming of age and they're finding their voices. They're showing these idiots who don't have the courage to pass laws that the ants do outnumber the grasshoppers. It's a Bug's Life reference. I got 4 kids. But it's a profound one. That scene from A Bug's Life that many of us parents have seen, where the ants have a decision to make. And they have a realization to come to. And the grasshoppers know it. If the ants at any point realize how easy it is for them to take control, the grasshoppers are dead. They're done. It's over. If you didn't see that one, Finding Nemo, same thing. When they're all caught in the net with Nemo, and he says, everybody's got to swim down. Everyone just keep swimming down to keep the net from pulling them up and catching them. Everybody's just got to swim in the same direction. But they have us divided. They have us divided like Rwanda. Have you seen the movie Hotel Rwanda? They split people. I mean, it's a real dramatization of real events. made with Don Cheadle. And I watched it with the kids a couple of weeks ago. Michelle and I saw it in the theaters, and Hotel Rwanda rattled me. And we were in the theater and we almost left because it was so emotionally stirring. Rwanda divided their population into the Tutsi and the Hutu. And then they tried to wipe out the Tutsi. Think about that. How are we being divided right now? Oh, you're anti-mask. Oh, you're anti-vax. No. We're all Americans. But now you got people that are being divided by what they protect themselves with or what they protect themselves with or don't. And people are being marked and people are being collated. And it's happening digitally in your social media and in your workplace. Our kids, by wanting to go to school, are standing up for learning and what America is all about, and they're 100% right. After 9/11, they told us America was fighting for our freedom, and somewhere across the ocean in Iraq or Kuwait or Afghanistan, we were really fighting for something else entirely. But these kids, their parents, those truckers in Canada and now in the United States are indeed fighting for our freedoms. So on the news, on television, for years now, they've been telling you that our troops going over to other countries are fighting for our freedom. The people that are fighting for our freedom right now are the nurses that are losing their jobs, the truckers that are convoying, and I'm talking about the real ones, the ones that are actually trying to do this without problems, just to ethically and peaceably represent themselves and their wishes and ours. Those people are fighting for our freedoms. These parents that are circulating petitions are fighting for our freedoms. Tom DeVore, some of these people running for office are fighting for our freedoms. That's what fighting for our freedoms looks like. Your freedoms are being eroded one paper cut at a time. When the freedoms erode, they erode for all. So right now, some people may say, yeah, quiet that Matt down on Facebook, quiet him down on Twitter, quiet him down on YouTube, keep him quiet. Because when they keep them quiet, me quiet, eventually what they don't realize is it's going to keep them quiet. At some point, they're coming for what you say. It's just a matter of time before what you say doesn't fit into the status quo. It's just a matter of time. Look at Russia. Russia is being canceled. What happens in what's happening there, what Putin is doing is, I'm not a Russian asset. I don't agree with Russia invading Ukraine. But look at what's happening as a result. They're being canceled. The people in Russia are being canceled. So you got a, crazy Putin, but the people are being canceled. The people can't get money. The people's rubles are being reduced and crashed. The world is conspiring to crash the economy of Russia and to tank their currency. They want them on the euro. They want them in the European Union, and it's happening. So what happens when it comes for us? If my freedoms go away, your freedoms go away. Even those of you who choose to mask or vax or whatever, imagine if one day it was mandated that you can't. You're not allowed to get the vax, or you're not allowed to wear a mask. How would you feel? You should be allowed to do whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't hurt somebody's property or their life. So what happens when they come for you? This is for you too. Imagine if your favorite president was in office and all your greatest fears were happening. Would you want him mandating that you cannot choose to mask yourself? Our governors, our presidents, others have mandated that we can't be free. What if Trump mandated that you join the army to keep us safe? What if the president mandated that you get chipped, like a microchip, like in your body or like in your hand or like in your forehead? What if they mandated that to keep you safe, to keep the country safe, to keep the currency safe, to keep our national security safe? What if they mandated that you get sterilized so you couldn't have any kids to keep us safe? Reproduction is a problem. It's a global climate issue. What if they did that? Would you be on board with it? You'd call him a dictator. Anybody that did that, you would call a dictator, and you'd be 100% right. You'd say, pass the law the right way, and you'd be right. See, we agree. And tyranny is tyranny, even if you agree with the end result today. That's why executive orders, even if they're from the person that you agree with, are no good. That's not what this was built on. The United States Constitution was not built on that. In America, we have 3 branches of government. The executive branch, governors, presidents. They don't write laws. They don't mandate laws. That's what we came here to escape. That's why my family came from Italy and Poland. That's why, people came from South America and Central America and Africa and Europe and all over the country. America needs to get behind each other and support what these kids are standing for. It's what we fought in the Revolutionary War for. We didn't want things mandated from Europe, from the Queen, from the monarchy. You've been sold a bill of goods. It's not your fault entirely, because fear sells. And we Americans buy it up. Maybe you didn't realize it before. You can still not realize it today, but one day you will. It could be too late when that happens. Now you're being informed, and as you watch events of the world unfold around you, it'll be harder and harder to deny. A virus that has 99% survival rate among all and nearly 0% death rate amongst kids does not warrant testing healthy people or experimenting on healthy people or any people. And even if it did, politicians can't mandate the above. They need to follow the law. They need to follow the law. They all need to follow the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's not what the government can do to us. It's what they can't do to us. You can't mandate health in America. If you could, why haven't they done it yet? If you could mandate health, why haven't they mandated no more GMO trans fat fast food from McDonald's or sugar water from Coke and Pepsi to end the cancer and diabetes and heart disease pandemic that's been plaguing us for the last 50 years? They'd mandate the fentanyl crisis away if they could. The fentanyl is the #1 killer in America. Why haven't they mandated that away? They'd mandate cancer away instead of having you donate money to bloated non-governmental organizations and walk in circles, literally, while you eat donuts and processed food that actually leads to cancer, and call it a walk for life. You ever done one of these walks for life? You walk around on the track in a circle before COVID. You go get the Subway sandwich and the donuts, and then you give somebody money, or you shave your head and you lie to yourself and you tell each other that that's going to do something for cancer. If they could mandate fresh air and vitamin D and exercise, they would have. Why didn't they? They would have mandated fresh air, exercise, and vitamin D, and mandated 70% of America get off non-essential pharmaceuticals. But if they tried that shit, they'd get sued by McDonald's. They'd get sued by Big Pharma, and they'd get sued by every other industry that would lose billions. If they tried to mandate no more fast food, McDonald's would come out guns blazing. They'd sue them, and they'd probably win. And they don't do that. They don't want us to be healthy. If they wanted us to be healthy, they'd encourage us to be healthy. Were your senators and congressmen and governors and presidents coming on and telling you, hey, go outside and go for a walk. See if you can drop 10 pounds. See if you can get more water. See if you can get some more vitamin D. No. And they really shouldn't be. They shouldn't be talking to us about our health at all. Why didn't they mandate no more abortions to save the kids? This is where it's going to get sticky. Why didn't they mandate no more abortions to save the kids? To keep them safe? Because a bunch of entitled and selfish sociopaths would scream from the rooftops that it's your choice to kill your baby if you want to. That's what would happen. But wait till you hear the numbers. If that last sentence angers you, it should, because you can't kill nearly 138,000 babies during a pandemic that kills 31,000 and say you're trying to keep anyone safe, let alone kids. 138,000 abortions in Illinois versus 31,000, according to Pritzker, deaths from COVID. And most of those weren't kids. Who are they trying to keep safe? Look it up. Fact check those numbers. Facebook will fact check it. Facebook is probably going to mark this or suppress this or do whatever. Illinois abortions each year. 2019, there were 46,517 abortions. In 2020, there were 46,243 abortions. That wasn't on the Channel 5 News. It wasn't on the Channel 2 News. It wasn't on WGN. They didn't have a ticker. They didn't have a terror alert for those babies, for those kids. They didn't do anything. They didn't even talk about it. But they're funding it. In 2021, the official numbers aren't all the way out yet, but it's going to be over 46,000 abortions. 31,679 people in Illinois have died of COVID total since 2019. And if you want to pass laws, you have to do it in the legislature, not from the governor's desk or the president's desk. That said, no one is stopping all the TV news stations from reporting the daily abortion death totals in Illinois to highlight the real pandemic. They wouldn't dare. 31,679 people is far less than 138,000 babies. Now, some Americans are calling for unvaxxed people to be refused life-saving medical care like heart transplants and other important surgeries. The virus has a 99.9% survival rate with or without a vax. This is about power. It's not about health. They want to tell you that you can't get life-saving heart surgeries or a knee replacement based on your vaccine status for this new experimental vaccine with a new experimental virus. And they never did it for the flu. They never did it with measles, mumps, and rubella. They never did it with pertussis. They never did it with all these other illnesses. They never did it with TB. They never did it with polio. They never did it before. Are we calling for the 138,000 women who've had abortions to be refused medical treatment because they've had an abortion? No. How about fertility treatment later? If they want to go and get fertility treatment, are they going to be refused fertility treatment? No. When they decide to be mothers? No. They would be allowed to do whatever they want to do. But if you decide not to take part in this medical experiment, you could lose your job in the military. You could lose your job as a teacher. You could lose your job with the government. Down the road, you may have other repercussions for your social credit, which is a whole other issue and a whole other video for a whole other time. Are we calling for the refusal of lung cancer treatment to patients who smoked? Are we calling for a refusal of heart surgeries to people who have eaten their way into obesity? No, nor should we. Nor should we. This virus has a 99.9% survival rate, no matter what you do. Where are those laws or mandates? Most of those crackpot ideas would never make it into session. And if they passed, they should be vetoed by the governor or president, depending on if they're state or national. In fact, the governor, president, is actually supposed to be the final line of defense for the people, as a check and a balance to the whims of the masses, not to be the whims himself. That's another reason why our United States senators, which is what I'm running for or circulating petitions for, to get on the ballot to unseat Tammy Duckworth, who is currently our United States senator from Illinois. The reason why senators have 6-year terms is so that there's a consistency in our representative government from our states, so that no matter the whims of each midterm and general election, No matter those whims and the tides of popularity and things like that, there's a steady consistency across the board of basic fundamentals like the Constitution. 6 years. So things remain steady. They're not steady in our favor. They're steady in a direction that's not good for most Americans. Someone just threw a brick in the front window of Kevin Bacon's house in the movie Footloose. This is when I was watching this. And the brick says, "Burn in hell." So Kevin Bacon's character in this movie, this is how I started this whole thing, because Footloose was emblematic of this cockamamie world we're living in, where everyone is trying to keep us safe. When by pretending that there's something out there that's sinister, I'm not saying that the virus isn't sinister. It is. It's sinister for everybody but 99.9% of the population. For the people it affects them, and it's scary. But Kevin Bacon's character in this movie, they can't dance to keep them safe. And if you watch it again, you'll see how fanatical it is. So he's staying with his uncle, and they throw a brick through the window. Somebody is making fun of him, and they say, "Burn in hell." And the uncle says, "You got to stop this. We're getting death threats, and your mom is being fired from her job." Sound familiar? This is what's happening to everyday Americans who say, like, "Yeah, I don't want to get this experimental thing. And yeah, I don't want to put this thing on my face all the time. And yeah, I don't want to shove a thing up my nose with chemicals on it because, my nasal pharynx and then, the membranes and all that stuff. And then there's these chemicals called ethylene oxide in it and some of this other stuff that it says causes cancer. I don't want to shove that into my body. I don't want to tell you what I'm doing." They're losing their jobs. They're losing their social status. They're being canceled. At some point, they may lose access to money. The community is pressuring this kid in this movie from every angle. They're putting his life and his livelihood and those of the ones he loves in danger. And all because he was planning a dance, and they want to keep him safe. So it's time to think, America. It's time to hold all these clowns accountable. Both parties are way off course. Both parties are way off course. What can we do about it? We can vote these bums out, and we should. We can put patriots in. If you can't find one, if you can't be one, find one. If you can't find one, be one. Support the kids, the parents, and the truckers. I support the truckers, but think about this. The truckers are going to DC to represent us. We have representatives for that. They're not doing the job. If they were doing the job, the truckers could be focusing on trucking. But they're not. They have to step up because our representatives aren't representing us. What happened? What happened to this? Support the kids, follow the money, and wake up. P.S. If you're afraid you might be in the 0.0239%, of course you need to do whatever you need to do. Wear a mask, get vaccinated. You need to do whatever you need to do. And it's none of my business. And it's none of the government's business. And it's none of your school's business. And it's not your boss's business. And it's not your toll attendant's business. It's nobody's business but you and your doctors. There should be zero judgment of you, and the 99.9% should have no input on your life. Wear a mask and do whatever you need to do, but it's not my job to keep you safe. It's not your job to keep me safe. It's not our senator's job to keep us safe. It's not the trucker's job to keep us safe. It's our job to keep us safe. We got to get people back to doing the job that's their job. The truckers could go back to trucking and delivering goods and things across the country and the continent. The representatives could go back to representing all the people in all 102 counties in Illinois, which are mostly middle-of-the-road conservative people. The teachers could get back to teaching. Cops could get back to fighting crime. That's how it should work. It's not the barista's job to make sure you're wearing a mask. But you think you have choices while the rest of the population has mandates. Shrinking options and almost no recourse as the political class passes the buck. So this is what happened during our COVID stuff, right? Pritzker mandated something. The board said, well, we got to listen to him. Oh, we can't because the governor said. Then the principal said, no, we can't because everyone's pointing at everyone else. We have to hold them all accountable, and we have to tell them, no, that's not your job. Your job is not to keep me safe. It's not Starbucks' job to keep me safe. The mandates affect us all, and one day you're not going to like the one that doesn't suit you. So it's got to stop now for me and for you, and otherwise we're all sunk. So that was this post that I put on Facebook that was pretty suppressed, and it kind of sums up a lot of things that I believe and have come to believe based on my experience and my reading, and not reading fringe things, reading science, reading math, reading history, and paying attention to what's going on, not just what people say. Like that doctor from Chicago that just vacated her office when she was in Illinois. I guess she's the Illinois' IDPH physician. I forget her title exactly, but she said in a press conference, COVID deaths aren't all COVID. You just got to pay attention to this stuff. Then you go find out what the guy that made the PCR test says about PCR tests. The guy that invented the tests. Not only what does he say about the test, but what does he say about Fauci? Go Google the guy that invented the PCR test and find out what he says about the test, what it shouldn't be used for, what it actually is, and what he says about Fauci. Congress and the Senate and our government should be auditing and investigating Fauci. You didn't elect him. I didn't elect him. He's been in there for 40 some plus years. It's going to come out in these next couple years, and people are going to be horrified, except a lot of people won't be, because they'll be too busy doing all the things that you have to do to just keep everything moving forward, working and getting your kids in school, and it'll all wear off. And then who's going to kind of pay attention to it? That's what I'm offering to do. If you want somebody like me to do that, I need help getting petitions. And if I'm not your cup of tea or brand of vodka, that's fine too. That's what America's about. And I wish the best for you and your families, because we're all going to need it. It's going to get tough. We're on the precipice of global changes and national changes. And unfortunately, even though the United States of America is a powerhouse and a sovereign nation, as you saw at the State of the Union, if you watched it, where our representatives are wearing the colors of another country and flags from another country, it's all changing. And they're efforting to homogenize the states, the countries, and the world. That's happening right now. Whether you believe it or not, and whether you like it or not, that's what's happening. And the question is what do you want to do about it? And what do you want your reps to do about it? If you want me to help represent you the way that I've, with the kind of ideas that I've shared, then I need some help getting petitions. And if you don't, that's okay too. I'm Matt Dubiel, and I approve this long trial message, 43 minutes of a live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And I don't know how to use the chat feature on this software yet, but I had to give it a shot. Tonight, we're going out to get petitions. Tomorrow, we're going out to get petitions. Sunday, we're going out to get petitions. If you are a parent, a voter, a grandparent, single, doesn't matter, anybody who is on the same page and willing to get 10 signatures, go to mattdubiel.com, please. Print out the petition. Just look at the instructions on the front page and follow those instructions. It's very simple. Anyone can get one sheet with 10 people filled. And if we get a bunch of people to do that, we've got a great chance at making some changes here that really affect us, and not just for the fun of saying we're doing something for change. Thanks for watching this. Thanks for sharing this. Thanks for commenting on this. And God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.